welcome to Talk Together. Thank you for joining us for an evening of talking about Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs and all of the wonderful dice roll-y things. I am Natalie. I will be your host for tonight, and I'll be chatting to the wonderful V, who you can see positioned next to me.
Hi!
I will be asking V some questions about her experiences playing TTRPGs, and if you've not tuned in to a Talk Together before, we decide which questions by rolling a d20, one of these, and the dice will decide which ones we ask. But before we start doing questions, and I just rolled my d20 somewhere, and I don't know where I rolled it. Great, that's a great start. I have backups.
Perfect.
It's fine. Before we kick off, this stream will run for about an hour. We are delighted to be sponsored by Hero Forge, Ultra Pro, and Elderwood Academy, and supported by D&D Beyond, Warriors of Waterdeep, and Level Up Dice. Thank you to all of those wonderful sponsors and supporters. They're all fabulous. Speaking of fabulous as well, there's our D20 Club on Patreon, who are also amazing. They support everything that we do, all of the streams, and they've made things like Discord and Wiki, and you can engage with the community and join in with all of our stuff with them and be as cool as they are. If you wanted to find us on the socials, you can find us under Roll Together RPG, and also look for us on podcasts. We're there on your favorite podcasting app, I'm sure. And if it's not on your favorite one, then let us know and we'll sort it out. So V, that's the important stuff done. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome. Formally, welcome to Talk Together. How are you doing today?
I'm fabulous. How are you doing today? I'm so excited, actually.
Oh,
like fabulous and
amazing.
Excited.
Great. No, I am as well, because obviously we've had a chance to play together, which was really fun, and we've had some little chats and stuff. We've not had a chance to properly get into things.
No, this is new.
Now is the time.
Yes.
Now is the time. Could you, for people who've maybe not seen you at all or only seen you on our stream recently, could you tell us a little bit who you are and what you do and who you played on our stream and who you play on other stream? Tell us about you. Talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm V. I'm co-founder and art director of a wonderful little TTRPG group called Queen's Court Games. I started it about a year ago with my friends because we're like, you know what the world needs? Another TTRPG podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Always. For Roll Together, I played in Chaos in the Collection. I played Gemma, a wonderful little tiefling artificer who had the very lovable, very memorable homunculus Rocky. Rocky is bae. I know. Oh, the best. Had some really, really great fun, some fantastic moments, beautiful, beautiful things that happened in that. But I'm also known outside of Roll Together, my big claim to fame. I'm not going to call it fame because it's not fame. Nobody knows who I am. But my claim to fame is playing Ivy LaRue. She's a wonderful Tremere in our Chicago by Night Vampire the Masquerade podcast titled The All Night Society. That's my baby. So yeah, very exciting. That's me.
So the VTM podcast you did, that's just podcasts, that's not streams, right?
Yes. It's an actual play, but we kind of focus more on the audio drama elements.
Awesome.
So we kind of take out all the table talk. So we don't, obviously we leave in jokes that are relevant to the game at hand that are in character, things like that. We remove a lot of questions about the system, superfluous dice rolling or questions about anything like that. And we really kind of focus on the storytelling.
Love that.
So if you like having stories and you're like, I just want to get to the meat of the characters, that's kind of what the All Night Society was all about. We're really big on telling a story and just using the actual play medium to get us there.
Amazing. Do you want to? Well, I was going to give you the opportunity to plug more at the end, but we're talking about it now, so let's talk about it more now. Do you want to?
Sure.
What's the general concept of the All Night Society, other than we're vampires in Chicago?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
That's it. Done. End of story. No
Right,
notes.
move on. No.
Yeah. No. So we used the Chicago by Night source book when we were starting the All Night Society, because there are already kind of like established worlds within the World of Darkness that have all like the hierarchy and stuff set up, which takes a lot of the work off of our storyteller, because you don't have to worry about all of like developing all the motivations for the characters, because ultimately when you can live forever, you have to find ways to entertain yourself, and a lot of that is playing the politics game and figure like having all these little schemes and kind of getting into it. So our coterie does find themselves in Chicago. My character is not originally from Chicago, but she finds herself there through a series of spoilers. It's actually not that spoilery, but we did we did a series of preludes when we first started the game. We had a very specific way we wanted to introduce the characters, and so there's a 3-part series that goes into the bit of the characters, who they were before they became vampires, how they became vampires, and then the situation that happened after they became vampires that put them in Chicago. So that was really, really fun to do. Again, it's very, very focused on the story. So that all of that stuff was very scripted. We actually wrote all of that and then recorded that.
Cool.
And it was great. It was super, super fun to do. Really great to get into like the meat of our characters and get into their heads. But yeah, in the first season of the All Night Society, the coterie finds themselves sent on a mission by the prince, because of course there are princes. That's who rules a group of vampires within a city, within a given area. So the Prince of Chicago has a task for our group, and you can't really say no to the prince. And they find themselves knee deep in a lot of turmoil. There's arson, and there's murders, and there's missing people, and all of this jam-packed into 18 episodes for the first season.
Amazing.
It's always super fun. A lot of intrigue, a lot of fun though. The thing about World of Darkness and Vampire, it is like a very dark, gritty game, but it's important for us as players not to wallow in it. Right? Like you want to pay attention and give credence to the nice, dark, horrible things that you can actually explore inside the World of Darkness, but you still want to have fun. You still want to take your characters and have them be able to do fun things and not just be like deep and dark and depressing all the time. So there are some really heavy moments, but then there are some really light moments. It's just really fun. It's just super, super fun. And then
it sounds it. I love vampires as a sort of sub-genre of. I mean, that's the thing. Like vampires can fall into so many different. It can be horror. It can be romance or intrigue or that kind of thing. But there's so many different takes on vampires through the years that I think being able to like encompass lots of different styles, not just the dark and moody, the children of the night, sweet music, but also the fun of it, right? Because if you can live forever, God, you're gonna get bored if you don't make fun.
Yeah, and that's it's so important to have fun with that. And World of Darkness has a lot of amazing characters to play with. They do have the ones that are just like tortured souls. But in Los Angeles by Night, LA by Night, in the books, there is Bela Lugosi. He's a Malkavian who, after becoming a vampire, he legitimately believes that he is Dracula. So he lives up in his castle in Hollywood and believes that he is Dracula, and he doesn't play the politics game. They just kind of like let him exist there. But that's you can have fun in World of Darkness. There are some silly things, but it does give you a chance to explore, and it is fun to do it in places like Chicago, or like LA or New York, because cool, you can have Strahd, right? Have the big castle in Barovia and have all of these like cool Gothic elements, and it's like no, we went and visited the Bean at in Millennial Park, right? Like just Millennium Park, because we were just like, had to meet up, and went to the big chrome bean in Chicago. And it's just there's a cool like contrast there when you can bring vampires to like modern day and just it's neat.
Great. And in terms of structuring an actual play as an audio drama, because this is something that I've done as well with merely role players. how do you go about, so you say you strip out all of the table talk, but when you say that season 1 was 18 episodes, was that something that you kind of planned and structured, or is it right, we know we're going to play this many sessions, and then however much story we get out of it, we'll figure out the episode length? Or from a practical point of view, what was the planning, or was there not? Was it just to see how it goes?
Yeah, so when we started Queen's Court Games and the All Night Society, none of us knew what we were doing, because it's fun. It's fun to just try new things, and you know, why not? So Aaron, who's our storyteller, and also he's my co-founder, and yeah, so we formed this together, and he does the writing for All Night Society. He knew the story that he wanted to tell. Mm-hmm. And then we worked obviously on our character stuff and what story we wanted to tell for our characters. But it was kind of just going to be like, okay, cool. However long it takes is how long it takes. Mm-hmm. And this was something that, you know, we kind of were a little concerned about, because, you know, in the middle we were like, oh, we have to like solve the story. We want to get to like the next part. But we definitely could have like slowed it down and like taken steps back and you know, focus more on character stuff. But Aaron's idea the whole time was, however long it takes is however long it takes. We'll make it stretch to however many episodes we need to. We kind of went into it with the idea that we wanted to have about hour and a half long episodes, just because that was kind of a length that we felt fairly comfortable with. Turns out hour and a half sometimes is a little long for people. So in season 2, we're trying to cut it down. Spoilers, right now, we're not being super successful about that. We have a lot of really amazing content for season 2. It's really, really hard to keep our episode length short. But yeah, we kind of were just like, okay, cool. This is our episode length. And we wanted to make sure that we had so many scenes and that the story was moving at a decent pace. But no, we were very much fly by the seat of our pants. Aaron knew where it was going to end. And however we got there is however we got there.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you do then one session is one episode?
That's the hope, right? Well, really. So we record for 4 hours at a time. So Sunday nights from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for me, because I'm in Iceland, so 6 p.m. GMT. That's our recording session length. And sometimes we come in, we know exactly what's going to happen. We know it's a lot of like role play. It's not a lot of like mystery solving. It's okay, I know what I need to do here. And we can get a good, like solid 3 to 4, 3.5 hours of content that we then can split up into multiple episodes. Mm-hmm. Other days where there's a lot of like, wait, okay, what about this? Sometimes we only get like one episode out of a session. Sometimes it's like we have to kind of piece stuff together. But in a perfect world, it's 1 to 1.5 episodes per session, just to kind of keep ourselves on track.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. I'm going to completely sidebar. I've still not rolled the dice yet, but I have another question that's come out of that I want to ask you.
Sure.
What is the TTRPG scene like in Iceland? How long? You don't need to get to like personal details, but like how long have you lived there? Do you play with people in person, or all of your TTRPG pals online?
So I've been in Iceland as of right now about 1.5 years. So moved during the pandemic. I have 0 out of 10. Don't recommend doing a big international move in the middle of a pandemic. Especially when you move right into like a winter season in a country that like actually has seasons. I come from Southern California. I'm a Southern California native in the United States. So typically my normal favorite temperature is, you know, about 22 to 26 C. And right now it's like 7 C. So temperature is very, very, very different for me.
Just a small adjustment.
Tiny.
Anybody. Yeah.
And then in the winter, at the shortest days of the year, you get 4 hours of sunlight. So it was a big adjustment. Don't recommend doing it in a pandemic. Iceland's kind of just now, in following the steps of other places, getting to the point where people can actually get together. Everybody's, you know, vax boosted, cool. But I haven't actually gotten a chance to like step out and see what's out there in Iceland. I know I have a friend that I was talking to, and his coworkers, saw that he was doing something D&D related, and they're like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, and it just kind of explained Dungeons and Dragons. They're like, that sounds really fun. And so they ended up all talking, and now he DMs a game for like 6 coworkers who had never played Dungeons and Dragons before and just thought it was neat. But I know there's a game shop, and there are people that get together, excuse me, and meet. So I know it exists. I just haven't been able to find it yet. So sadly, all of my TTRPG stuff now is online, Discord, Roll20.
I mean, thank goodness for the internet, right?
Really,
I don't know how people would have survived the last couple of years without it.
No. I mean, somehow people managed Spanish flu, right? But I wouldn't want to now.
No. Right. I'm finally, 10 to 15 minutes into this interview, going to roll a d20 and let's see what the official questions are going to say.
Let's go.
Oh, we say the thing. We chant, roll that dice.
That dice.
Roll that dice.
Do it.
Yes. Doing my job really well there, remembering. Good.
I'm proud of you.
Number 12. Why are TTRPGs important to you?
I like stories. It's the same reason I like video games, movies, books, pretty much anything that I can get my hands on. I just love new stories. I find them super, super fun. Growing up, I read everything and would watch movies and all this. And then I discovered video games, and it was really cool for me to be able to have a controller in my hands and kind of take control and be the cool person doing the cool things instead of watching it or like just reading about somebody else doing it. And I remember having this conversation with my grandma when I was like 13. She's like, why do you spend so much time playing video games? And I'm like, why do you watch movies? Like, you like the stories. I'm interacting with stories just in a very different way. And so I think TTRPGs give me that too. It's obviously it's like your decisions really matter, right? In that way that we want our decisions to matter, in that way that we agonize over having to pick the mean option in Bioware games, because you were like, oh no, I know this is going to affect things in a negative way. In TTRPGs, yeah, it's actually going to. Your actions could end up hurting somebody else or hurting yourself. And so it really kind of is like, okay, cool. Like it's a fun mental exercise. And it just, it puts the stories in your hands, which has always been really fun for me. So
yeah, I love that as well. That there's with theatre, you often get a sense of catharsis, but with TTRPGs, like and video games as well, having it directly in your control, like that sense is just so heightened. Now you've mentioned Bioware games, and I know again we're supposed to be talking about tabletop games, but people who have seen me on this program before know that I love me a Mass Effect and a Dragon Age. I have to we have to get into this. So you say like making the hard choices in those kind of games. Do you play through as Renegade in Mass Effect? Can you do that? I've tried so many times, and every time
I've tried. The closest I get is like a hair into Renegade. I can't ever go full Paragon. Right. And I usually, it's weird. I pretty much go as far as I need to one side. So I'm not like locked out of certain things because it's like, well, you can't make up your mind. And I'm like, of course I can't. I'm bisexual. But yeah, it's so hard for me. It's so hard because I'm like, I don't want the pixels to be mad at me. Please don't be mad at me.
I need approval of all the pixels.
Yeah, like, okay, you're gonna tell me that I have to look at Garrus and be mean to Garrus, or that I have to like look at Cullen in his cute little sad golden retriever boy face and like be mean to him? How am I supposed to do that?
V, are they both of your romance options?
So
are we the same person?
Yes, probably. I haven't brought it out. I have my alien space boyfriend Funko Pop.
Yep.
Garrus is bae. In Dragon Age, I did one of those. I participated in one of those things on Twitter, which was like post your like crushes and like out yourself. And I realized it was Garrus, and then it was Alistair from Origins, and then Cullen, and then Balthier from Final Fantasy 12. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. I see what's happening now. But yeah, Alistair in the first one, because fluffy golden retriever boy, that just is like broken and damaged, and you just want to make him feel better, and just, it's okay. It's okay. In Dragon Age 2, it was Fenris, because this is okay. So here's the thing: it was gonna be Anders. Because at the end of Origin in the DLC, I was like, oh my god, Sir Pouncelot, this is great. Anders is awesome. And then of course, maybe not so awesome in 2. Gideon Emery, his voice. Thank you, Bear. Sorry, my dog just coughed. But because of Balthier in Final Fantasy 12, Gideon Emery is one of my favorite voice actors. So when I heard that he was the voice of Fenris, that immediately changed my path. So I had to go with Fenris, because I just needed Gideon Emery to say nice things to me.
Sure, yeah. And you chose Fenris, and he said nothing nice.
He said nothing nice literally ever. But that's just how Fenris be. And then yeah, in Inquisition, it was Cullen. When I did this romance, I actually, when Inquisition came out, I played through all 3 again from start to finish, so I could load up all my saves, and I did a pro mage play. So in my very first one, when you're doing the mage tower, you can flirt with Cullen and he gets all flustered, and I was like, this is the best thing ever, because then in Inquisition you're like, hey, and he's like, all right, fine, and you're like, yes, and it's the best. I'm glad that we're the same person, though.
I know, yeah. Although, well, actually, I do have one tweak to that. In the first time I played through Mass Effect, it was Thane, because Lord help me, I seemingly cannot help myself with a sad and complex boy that needs help.
Yeah.
But the second time, but I always regretted, because Garrus, that voice again. Oh. So next time around, played through Garrus, and honestly, I couldn't pick between the two. If there's a future Mass Effect where, well, no, you can't, because spoilers, Thane died. But both. Why not both is always my suggestion for that. But
it is kind of weird that at this day and age we don't have the option to romance more than one person at a time without them being jealous. I just it's a little maybe one day.
I'm gonna roll a d20 again. Let's see what comes up. And number 7, let's see. Is there a moment in a TTRPG that impacted your life out of game?
Oh, that's a good question.
Tell us.
Yeah, like, I mean, I feel like they always kind of do, right? In some way, whether it's like having those like really hard emotional moments that you're just like, I need a mental health day after my game. Because that was like emotionally distressing for me, or just like giving you the chance to kind of like maybe reevaluate things, or something happens in game and you're like, oh, this is like there's a parallel to something that's going on. Gosh, that's such a hard question, because at this exact moment, now that you have asked this question, my mind is it's very head empty, no thoughts. But that's fine.
We can always have you on again, and if something comes to mind, then you can tell us about it then. But
I'm gonna have to pay attention now.
That's fine. But I think what you've said already is quite important. It's something that I believe it's important, because it's so it can be intoxicating, right? Playing TTRPGs, you can get so into it, you can be so emotionally invested. I've said about it before on stream. I think it's important to have ways to be able to distance yourself afterwards. And for actors, there's the trope that actors are drunks, because you always see actors in a pub after doing a show at the theatre, right? But half of that is just to have the separation, the emotional separation, and something to let go of what you've just been going through, to refresh yourself and get back into the real world. And I think it's important to do that with TTRPGs as well, especially if you invest in the role play, because it's improvised theatre, whether you're doing it on stream or just for you and your circle of friends.
Yeah. There have definitely been moments, and this I think kind of comes down to like the whole audio drama aspect of the All Night Society specifically. Right, which, you know, there are definitely those moments where, you know, you include your own trauma into TTRPGs as like a way to help you like work through it. And then when you're faced with those things, right, and it gives you a safe space to kind of be able to go through all of that. And then, you know, you kind of have to like have that little bit of like, okay, cool. Like that was a safe way to be able to kind of explore. But yeah, it like there have been some sessions where I've just come away and I'm just like emotionally drained. And yeah, you do kind of have to have that little pick me up where you're like, okay, no, like that was good, but I'm gonna go play some Garrus. I'm going to go play some Mass Effect so Garrus can say nice things to me now because, so. Yeah.
I think that, again, that comes into, we're always harping on about safe tables and such. Like, at the end of the day, D&D can be a platform for exploring these things, but it is not a licensed therapist. So, you know, go into it knowing what you're doing in terms of what you're willing to explore on a given day, and that can change. And what people at your table are happy to do so as well, and like check in with each other and look after each other while you're doing it.
Oh yeah, we one of the things that we always do at the beginning of every recording session is we always check in. We always do a mental health check. Like, hey, how are you guys doing? Like, just like, are you guys like mentally in a place to do certain things today? Like, how's everybody feeling? And there have been days where like one person is just like, I'm just not really here, and we're like, all right, cool, see you next week. Like, we're never gonna put people in the position to like do more than they're able to do, or like, you know, not like if they're not like able to explore a thing. Even, you know, if previously they're like, no, it'd be fine if they come to the table. If I come to the table and I'm like, you know, I know we're supposed to record this today. Like, I just like, I'm having some, like my head is just not in it today. I just won't be able to do it. Cool. It's not going to happen. And nobody's going to like nobody at our table or any good table will ever make you feel bad for that. And it's a lot of it comes down to trust. You know, the All Night Society folks, we've been working together for a very long time, and we all trust each other, not just to like, you know, respect like boundaries and not push us, but also like respect that these people aren't going to do that. You know, we trust that nobody's going to do that, and we would never do that to anybody else. So yeah, safe tables, very important for all of that.
Great. Let's see what the dice say this time. They're saying a number 5. Ah, okay. Completely different tangent here. How do you feel about cosplay?
Oh, I love it. I love other people doing it because I'm such a perfectionist. I like to really like noodle on things, and I worry that my doing it will never be good enough. But I love when people do it. It makes me really, really excited. We do actually have a stream that we're doing. We're recording Cult, and all the characters are. It's modern day, and all the character outfits because it's pre-gens, so they're all things that we can do and we can emulate. So we all kind of agreed for the stream, because it's going to be really fun, we are all going to dress up as our characters to kind of fit that vibe. Which is going to be great. I love it. I love cosplay. I think it's super, super fun. I think if people are going to do it on like a stream thing, you know, if everybody gets into it and does it, I think that's super cool. It does make me a little sad when there's like one person who's like super into it and is all dolled up, and then everybody else is just like, I don't know, I got off work like an hour ago, you know? Yeah. Which like, I love that look. I love this look, like hoodie, t-shirt, whatever. I would have felt really bad during Chaos in the Collection if I had shown up and you guys were all like, oh yes, like, look at me, I am wearing a prosthetic nose because I'm Skitter and I need to look like a cat. And, you know, I was just like, sure, Gemma wears hoodies, why not? Yeah. I don't even have horns. But I love it. I think it's great. It's a super fun creative expression. And I mean, as an artist, I'm all about people finding creative outlets. I dig it.
If you could cosplay as one of your characters, which one would it be?
It's really hard for me to say Ivy, because Ivy is my self-insert into the world of darkness. So like I already
Look at that.
I have like basically a lot of the stuff that she wears is based on stuff that either I wear already or like things that I would like to have as an addition to my wardrobe. So Ivy would literally be the simplest thing to cosplay. I mean, I show up as Ivy most of the time anyway. But I mean, Gemma honestly would be super fun to role play because, you know, she's got like, I mean, I think it would be annoying because pinky sort of like red skin and then I'd have to get the horns right, but that would be super cool.
But if money was no object, right?
If money was no object, yeah, I could do Gemma. I could come and just be like, look at me, I'm cute, I have like a harness and like flowy clothes and, you know, horns and do the whole thing. Gemma would be fun. I'd have to figure out a way to make Rocky.
I was going to ask, would you either do it as like a marionette, or would you have like a hand puppet, or would you just have like a little like nod to him as like a trinket attached to your belt or something, or would you want to go the full Rocky experience or just a nod?
See, I mean, I feel like I'd want to try and like do something like full Rocky experience, but like, I mean, it way back when, years and years and years ago, just as like an elective, I took a robotics class, and
very cool.
It's super fun. It's really, really fun. I think that, I mean, it was baseline intro stuff. So we were like learning how to do like robotics and like using Visual Basic, which like who uses Visual Basic anymore? But like, you know, putting together, like creating like a little animatronic skeleton and then like, you know, building up off of that, like that would be fun. The other option is just to create like a little thing and not have him move, but just like sculpt a thing, because sculpting rocks is fun and easy. So just creating a little sculpt and then just having him exist would be adorable. I
mean, yeah, he's adorable anyway. So any version of Rocky would automatically be just the best, just the cutest.
I feel like if I was going to go that route, though, I would also have to like give him a waistcoat and a top hat.
Of course.
Because he can't be naked.
No.
Indecent.
If you're going to do Rocky, you've got to do like final form Rocky. Well, I suppose it's not even final form because we're only level 7. So who knows where he would have gone.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, meeting Valanamitra, you know, right. What's she going to do, Rocky? Who knows? It'll be great. We'll find out eventually, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Great. Let's see. What else? The dice have got. Now that's another 7. So we've already answered that. Unless you're. Have you come up with anything in the last 5 minutes? Is there a moment?
No, I said I would think, and then I didn't keep thinking.
No. I distracted you with other questions. Oh, no. I'm a terrible host. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, let's go instead with number 6, which is what I rolled next. I'm rolling really low today. This is not a good sign. How did you start playing TTRPGs?
In fairness, you could be rolling low because you're saving all of your good ones for later, right? I'm just trying to look on the positive side. If I could balance luck,
if I could save my good rolls for when I'm playing, then I absolutely would. But yeah, just a low roll day today.
Yeah, that's fair. As far as starting TTRPGs, I had this friend back in high school. Her name was Liz, and she and I would start carpooling together because we lived like a few blocks away from each other, but our school was far enough away that it just made sense for like us to go get her and take her, or her parents to come and get me. And she was a nerd. She was actually the reason I got into like Lord of the Rings. Because her dad was a huge nerd. Her dad just loved, I mean, anything nerdy. She loved horror movies. He loved nerd stuff. That was kind of the thing. And he started doing Dungeons and Dragons for like some of his friends. And Liz was like, do you think like, would you want to try and play Dungeons and Dragons? And I was just like, I don't know. No, that's young, like preteen, right? That's right. That's sure. That's how preteens sound, right? I haven't been a preteen in a long time.
Dungeons and Dragons.
I assume that all preteens have just high-pitched squeaky voices. It just makes it easier
Either that
for me.
or that's the only way you can invite other people to play at your table with you.
Oh, sure,
Hello.
yeah. Hey, would you like to play some Dungeons and Dragons with me?
Come roll the dice.
Sorry, I completely distracted you. Please tell your story.
No, that's fine. This is the voice that Scarlett and I use actually to talk to one another when we're being kind of goblins. So it's fine. It's fine. But she was like, "Hey, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And she was like, "Oh my God, I'll teach you." And so every week on like a Monday night after school, her parents would pick us up and take us back to her house. And then at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever, my grandma or my grandpa would come and get me and take me home. I can't even tell. I could not tell you what the game was. I think I played like an elf because I was like, "Oh, elves, that sounds nice." Young V, very high-pitched voice.
Was that Soleil?
Yes. Oh God.
Chrissy has entered the chat.
Oh, she's gonna get a kick out of that. It's weird. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I played an elf. I probably played a ranger because I have attempted to play elven rangers so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. I think it's a curse because every single time I try and play an elf ranger, the game falls apart. I've never been able to complete a game with an elf ranger.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know why. Again, might be cursed.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is there something about that combo that keeps bringing you back to it?
I mean, the honest, silly answer is I like classes that I like bow and arrows and I like animals. And sure. I my very first character before I mained Paladin in World of Warcraft was I was a Draenei, so I didn't get started in Classic. I started in Burning Crusade. I played a Draenei Hunter until like level 30, and then I switched over as Blood Elf Paladin. That's neither here nor there. But Hunter, because I was like, I get to shoot things and I have a pet. It's wonderful. I'm a big animal person. I like pets. So that's kind of why, like with Rangers, I'm just like, that's so cool. I get to shoot things and not like hopefully die, and I have an animal, and that's rad.
Fair enough.
But I never get to see them out.
That is incredibly sad. Do you have like similar? Okay, so of all the elf rangers that you have played, have they all been like different subclasses? Have they had different pets, or have they had unifying features?
They haven't been like exact carbon copies, but I think that they've all kind of had the same sort of, because the problem is, and I don't know if this is like a shared experience or if this is just like because I've just been very unfortunate. I always, until I started like in like the TTRPG like streaming space, I always played D&D games starting at level 1. Mm-hmm. So the very first time I played a D&D game that wasn't level 1 was like last October.
Right. And
that was level 5. And I was like, oh my God, how am I supposed to do this? There's so much stuff to go through. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately at level 1, your ranger options are fairly limited, right? Like you can't really, you don't really get into the fun stuff, into any of the neat like subclasses or feats or anything like that. So I assume that they're all fairly similar. Wolves, always a good option for a pet, mm-hmm. Some sort of like big 4-legged dog, right? 4-legged canid creature. Not one for birds of prey. It's not really my jam. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just like, but yeah, wolves, always cool. So
ruffle the fur rather than ruffle feathers.
Exactly.
Fair. Well, that sounds like a challenge then. That sounds like a V plays a high level ranger that gets to have more than one go challenge.
Please. I want to so bad. I know. Ugh.
have you looked much at the different subclass options? Do you have one like lined up? Next time you have the opportunity, bam.
No. I think because I probably just put the idea out of my head, and like it's funny because I've played in a bunch of D&D games, and I don't know if my brain is just like, don't play a ranger because it's cursed. But like, yeah, in all the streams that I've had the chance to play in, I've never gone back to a ranger. So I just know I haven't given it much thought because I just resigned to never being able to see one through.
That's so sad. Well, I hope that the world makes that happen for you. I've not played a huge amount of Rangers, but I've done a one shot where I played a Drake Warden and can wholeheartedly recommend. It's good. You get a dragon. It's just
Why would
cool.
You not want that? That
Exactly.
sounds amazing.
So I recommend Drake Warden if you get the opportunity to play.
No, I'm gonna have to go to D&D Beyond later and just make one and just sit on it and just be like, this is what I want to play next.
My precious is waiting for me.
Exactly, yes. I love the voice. I dig the voice.
Look, right, you say this is what you and Scarlett talk like this to each other when you're in goblin mode.
Yeah.
I also have a goblin mode, and she has many voices, and that is one of them. So
Lovely.
Yeah, continuing to find out similarities, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I've rolled the dice again.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a bit higher. This is number 15.
Ooh.
Where do you start when making a character?
Ooh. So it always kind of comes down to what I feel like playing usually, but okay, I want to say that a lot of times when I start making a character, 9 times out of 10, I'm filling spots, right? With Ivy, it was different. With Ivy in the All Night Society, I was like, this is what I want to play. This is the character I'm playing. I don't care what anybody else is playing. This is what I'm doing. You guys can figure it out. But in a lot of other things, I'm like, okay, other people come up and they say, oh, I want to do XYZ. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, based on what I feel like playing, where can I kind of like slot in? Where do I fit in here? Which is a really sad way to kind of approach it sometimes. Because then you're just like,
Not necessarily.
It feels, I mean, yes and no, right? Because on the one hand, you're like, no, you should just play what you want to play. And on the other hand, you're like, but like a little bit of min-max. You want to have a
bit, please. Can I balance?
You can have a little bit of balance as a treat. But yeah, with Chaos in the Collection, for example, I was kind of like, okay, like what do I really want to play? And everybody, had kind of like, okay, cool, we can do whatever. And M kind of made it clear that we shouldn't need like a super well-rounded party. We don't need like a tank. We don't need like a healer. It should not be that bad. Should not.
Turns out what we were missing from that party was a tank and a dedicated healer.
X to doubt M. But I was just like, I don't know, like what sounds fun to play? Because I at that point I'd played like a rogue. So I was like, I don't really want to do a rogue. And I'd played like a barbarian. So I was like, I don't want to do a barbarian again. And then I couldn't do a bard because I didn't want to, step on Chrissy's toes. And then it was like, okay, well, monk. Oh no, can't do a monk because I didn't want to step on Skitter's toes. And then, like druid. Okay, can't do a druid because I don't want to step on Lola's toes. And so I was like, well, what can I do? What sounds fun to play? And that was when I was like, oh, artificer, neat. And then it was just kind of like rolling the dice to figure out flaws and things like that. And I was like, cool, I can make a backstory with this. That works. It's different in other modules though. So like vampire, it's a lot of, okay, cool. Like, when I first got introduced to vampire years and years and years ago, Aaron was actually the one who got me into it. And he was like, okay, let's make you a character. And I was like, awesome. And I was like, what are the different clans? And he goes, no, that's not what we're going to do. And I said, okay. And he goes, you're going to tell me who your character is. You're going to tell me who your character was as a human. What did they do? What are they good at? Talk about like who they were as a person. Like let's go through skills. Like how strong are they? They're like, there's like stamina, strength, dexterity. Like how, like let's rank all of these different skills and attributes. What did they do as a day job? What were they good at? What were they bad at? And kind of like formulate the backstory that way. And based on the things that I just said, like I want a character that is super into like knowledge seeking. This is a common theme with me. Some would say that I typecast myself by finding the characters that are super into knowledge hunting and finding new things. And it is true a little bit. But Ivy, I know. But Ivy was the first one. But I was like, I want a character who's like super like knowledge hungry, wants to find out like everything about everything and just loves it. And he goes, cool, great. And he was like, cool, based on this and my understanding of all of the clans, you're going to be a Tremere. And I was like, cool, what's that? And he's like, they use blood magic and they're really big into the occult and, and he's like, and they're part of like this structure where like, it's like you have like Tremere at the top and it's literally called a pyramid. And, everybody like, it's all about like knowledge, and the more knowledge you have, theoretically, the higher the rank you can climb. And that's kind of always been how I've approached creating vampire characters since then, is okay, let's figure out who this person was before and then figure out which clan they would end up being because of who they were as a human. Which is just kind of fun and neat. So very different ways to handle it depending on the book. Yeah,
that sounds really interesting. I have a couple of follow-up questions and I'm going to try and remember all of them. So let's stick with vampire because it's not a system I've played before. Does the clan that you belong to affect how you play the game? Is it akin to some kind of class or rule structure?
Yeah. So in vampire, there's a set of they're called disciplines, which are basically your vampire powers. So they have each clan has three disciplines that they innately know. It is possible through training and like finding other people to teach you things to learn all of them. So it's not like they're with a couple exceptions. It's not like they're restricted to just one clan. But for example, Tremere have access to, at the very beginning, character creation, they have access to Auspex, Dominate, and Thaumaturgy. It's called Blood Sorcery now. I like the old V20 and then the older edition name, Thaumaturgy. So we call it Thaumaturgy in the All Night Society and reference it as blood sorcery once in a while. But blood sorcery does what it says on the tin. It's about controlling the blood, using other people's blood, using your blood to do damage or like find stuff out. So one of the abilities is called like Taste of Blood, where you can literally taste a drop of blood and find information out about the person whose blood it is. Cool. There's another one where that spoilers that Ivy may have just learned, where it allows her to drain mortals from a distance, so she can see you across a room and make you not have blood anymore. And it
delightful.
Yes, as vampires are wont to do.
Yeah.
Dominate does what it says. You can affect minds, super easy on mortals, harder on kindred vampires. Auspex is about seeing things, understanding things. So like sense the unseen, you can like see ghosts, you can see things that like aren't there anymore, things that are like hidden. The later powers get like really, really crazy about what you can experience, what you cannot. There are powers to make you stronger. There are powers to make you faster. There are powers that allow you, that allow you to fleshcraft basically and like change your...
that sounds delicious.
yeah the chemise are a trip. You can affect your own body, you can affect other people's bodies, sometimes in good ways, sometimes in bad, depending on the chemise who's behind it. There are ones that like allow you to create minor illusions and things like that, but if you don't know the discipline, you can't do it. So yeah, it's basically the way that classes are separated.
Sure. So based on that, with your approach of figuring out who they were before they were a vampire and then figuring out the family, have you ever felt, I mean, you might not have played lots and lots and lots of different games, I guess, but so you've not found that that's a restriction in terms of, oh, I wanted to play like this, but I'm now playing like this because of the background led me to this family choice?
Yes and no. It's at some point you get a little into the lore and you can kind of like create your story to kind of push you in a direction, right? But there are always exceptions to the rule. So the Tremere, as an example, go for people who are smart, they're intelligent, they have something to offer. If you are like the Tremere don't embrace willy-nilly. They are always very calculated about who they embrace because they're like, I need this person to be useful. Because if they're not useful, if they're not providing value to the pyramid, then I'm not providing value to the pyramid. It's very... My friend Clara likes to make the joke. She's the one who plays Maya on the All Night Society, and her character likes to make the joke that the pyramid is literally a pyramid scheme, which it is because
you're like it.
Yeah. So you do work as a neonate, and your sire benefits. Same idea. But that's not to say that it never happens. So Ivy was definitely sought after because that was her story. But if I was like, yeah, I want to play a Tremere, but my character is so anti-Tremere. Okay, cool. What is the situation then that would cause a Tremere to embrace you? Right? So the very first time I did this, we kind of like picked clans together because I didn't know, and I didn't want to have any like expectations on what clans. Now that I kind of know everything, I put together this character and I'm kind of like, okay, cool. Based on this character should be a Toreador, or this character should be a Ventru. But if I'm like, I don't want to, that's not the vibe that I want for her though. Okay. What's the situation that you find yourself in that would make somebody else embrace her? It's not out yet, so I don't want to talk about it exactly, but in the All Night Society, we have talked about how there is a freshly embraced character that we introduce in season 2. And it's there are things called panic embraces, right? Where something happens and somebody just freaks out and doesn't think and just does the thing. There's a sect called the sect is like the big group. So there's Camarilla, there's Anarch, there's Sabbat. And in the Sabbat, the freshly embraced vampires, they're often nicknamed shovelheads, because the idea is that the Sabbat just need bodies. They're fighting a big war. So they need bodies to just throw at the problem. So they take a shovel and beat people to death and then shove them in a mass grave. And if they survive the embrace, then hooray, there they are. And you just kind of have to figure it out as you go along. So not every embrace is done for the right reason. There's actually a character in Chicago by Night who embraced his niece. This is canonical, so I'm not spoiling anything. But he embraced his niece, and then his blood wasn't strong enough to like fully give her all of the powers of his clan, and that's what you call like a caitiff, which is somebody who's clanless. So yeah, there's all sorts of reasons that vampires get embraced. So you don't have to stick to that if you have a reason, or you can come up with a good enough reason why it wouldn't fit the archetype. Yeah,
I guess coming from the D&D perspective, I can see a world in which you go, I want to play a person who has this story, and then figuring out what class they are going to be afterwards. I can see that. But if that class isn't one that you enjoy playing, then I guess there's some figuring out to be done.
Yeah, I think it's because the thing is vampires are strong, right? So like you don't, it's a little different if you're like, oh, I don't want to play I want to play this type of character, but I don't want to be a barbarian. You're like, I want to actually be a rogue. And it's like, okay, well, if your story is that this person is like, you know, Helga Giant Hammer and you're like playing a rogue, you're like, okay, well, why is she Helga Giant Hammer? She doesn't have a giant hammer. She's got daggers, right? But in vampire, it's a little different. So like Tremere, yeah, like if you're a Tremere without blood sorcery, that's a little weird because it's Toreador, as an example, they have something called presence, which is all about, you know, like, I mean, literally your presence. But it's not a thing that like, I think the difference is actually that vampire's not focused on combat. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like thaumaturgy does have some attack things, and those are very helpful because Ivy is not physically strong. So where, you know, another character might be physically strong even without disciplines, Ivy's not. So she needs some way to be able to like use her magic to protect her in those times when combat happens. But combat and vampire, not gonna lie, little crunchy, not super smooth, and it's always kind of a pain to edit and make it feel good in like audio drama format. Sure. So there have been 2 fights in our 18 episodes. 2 episodes had combat of any kind, because it's not super focused on combat. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's the difference, right?
Maybe, yeah. D&D, even though obviously we lean very heavily into the roleplay side of it here, it is ultimately kind of designed from the ground up to be a combat machine that then you add roleplay to. Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Did you ever play Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines? I'm just asking because we kind of have like a video game thing. Okay.
Not yet. I do have it, but I have such a backlog.
No, that's totally fair. I played Bloodlines first. That was playing Bloodlines is what got me into Vampire like years and years and years ago. Aaron bought it for me and he's like, play it. And I was like, I'm obsessed. But combat in Bloodlines, just as terrible as combat in the TTRPG. So maybe that's by design. But yeah, it's very much a social game. There's even like rules for social combat with Inside World of Darkness, which has like trackers that you have to keep track of. Aaron really wants to get into that. We did a really poor job of trying that last season. So I'm hoping in season 2 we can actually get a handle on the social combat. But yeah, so it's okay if your character doesn't fit in the archetype, because ultimately like you're not going to be hindered in what you can do if your character doesn't fit the mold of whatever class you should be, right? Yeah. So yeah, maybe that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are so many other TTRPGs out there that are kind of definitely based on social stuff rather than combat stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, V, that's kind of all we've got time for, really. I did want to ask. I know. Before we close up, though, obviously we've talked about the All Night Society. We've talked about Queen's Court Games. And is there anything particular you want to plug? Anything else you want to raise our attention to? What have you been doing with Queen's Court Games lately?
Yeah. So, excuse me, just hit my mic and coughed at the same time. Great way to start. So as I mentioned, I'm the co-founder and art director of Queen's Court Games. We're just a fun group of 3 players and 2 forever GMs to share the world of collaborative storytelling. You can obviously find us playing Vampire the Masquerade on the All Night Society. We also have One Shots Another Mischief, which is another podcast. It's great. We like to try out games. Trail of Cthulhu, Divinity Lost. That's our single serving side piece. One Shots Another Mischief. You can find all of these podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Cast, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Guarantee we are there. But if Dungeons and Dragons is more your jam, we do have stuff coming to Twitch soon. TM.
Excited. Is that anything you can talk about, or is that all just put a pin in that, remember that, we'll talk about it when it's ready?
Yeah, it's like a month. We're
Sure.
we're currently in production for a bunch of these things. So May is kind of going to be our really, really fun thing. We do have other stuff coming out that is not Dungeons and Dragons. We do have some stuff we're working on with Cult, which is going to be streamed as well, but that's a very different vibe. Yeah, ultimately, if you follow us at Queen's Court RPG on Twitter, at Queen's Court Games everywhere else, unfortunately, Twitter has like a 15 character limit, so we couldn't get at Queen's Court Games, which will never cease to fill me with rage. But yeah, you can keep up on all of our stuff there. We also are on Patreon, where we go do a bunch of fun bonus content, including our Snickle stream. So
Right, I'm very aware of time, and I don't care. I'm going to lose out on any timekeeping badge here, but we need to. Can we unpack the Snickle stream, because I feel like this is of interest to our viewers.
So on April Fools for the All Night Society, we had Schmendrick, our Nosferatu, call in some boons and get all of our characters over to play Dungeons and Dragons. So it's our vampire characters playing Dungeons and Dragons. Ivy doesn't understand it because she's not that much of a nerd in that way, but it's a whole really, really fun time. In it, Aaron, who's usually our storyteller, actually gets to play a character. His name is Charles. He's another Nosferatu. Fun fact about vampires: if you eat food, human food, you can't process it, so it has to come back up eventually. But there's a merit that you can take that's called eat food, which allows you to eat food. You can't get any nourishment from it. It's just kind of one of those little things. So Charles brought as snacks for Dungeons and Dragons a pile of Snickles. And in case you don't know what a Snickle is, it is a wonderful sandwich concoction where you take a pickle, you cut a pickle in half, you stick a Snickers in between, and then you eat it.
This is horrifying.
It is. It's horrifying. It was horrifying in the game. All of our characters reacted very appropriately. I don't know where Aaron decided to bring the Snickle, but he brought it. And then we couldn't stop thinking about it. Because we were just so curious. So we went and we all decided to go and buy Snickle supplies and then all get on Zoom together. And as a bonding experience,
Sure,
as you do, we all decided to eat Snickles on camera and give our honest reactions about them.
And was this recorded?
It was.
Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's recorded. It's out
for
there.
the general part. It's available for the general
It
public
is.
to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's great. The screenshots that we all got from the video are just fantastic. They're wonderful.
Great.
It's a wonderful mix of people who actually enjoyed the experience and people who definitely did not and had tummy upsets for the next 24 hours.
No.
So
I hope
yeah.
I won't ask which camp you fell into, because that's spoilers, and we should all go and watch that video. But I hope you were not ill afterwards.
I was not. No.
Okay, great.
No.
Good.
I think only one person had really had a level, a reaction of that level.
Okay. Well, on that delightful note,
Yes.
that is where I'm going to wrap things up. So thank you so much, V, for being part of this. It's been lovely to chat to you more. Thank you to everyone else in the chat for watching us and joining us and being part of the show. This was Talk Together. This is our chat show. It runs Fridays from 6 p.m. Till 7 p.m. GMT. I think we're back to GMT now. We're back into all of the time streams have realigned after the summer craziness. We stream D&D games if you want to watch us roll dice properly and not witter a lot, and we do a lot of wittering in between rolling dice on the stream anyway.
A little bit.
But if you want to watch our games, then we do that on Mondays and Tuesdays at 6 p.m. GMT. In our Monday slot, at the moment, we have the second part of Niall Isak's campaign, Into the Wastelands, The Eternal Army. And on Tuesdays, we're back to Horror in Neverwinter with Sean's campaign, A Viscous Cycle. So come and join us for both of those, because they're both awful and awesome at the same time.
Yes.
A wonderful time. All of our
Always
shows
is.
stream here. It's twitch.tv/rolltogetherrpg, and VODs are available immediately after the stream to catch up, or you can find all the content on YouTube a few days later, and also you can enjoy them as a podcast. Hello, podcast listeners. And once again, a huge thank you to our D20 Club on Patreon. If you'd like to join them and be as awesome as they are, then you can do so from as little as one of your local currencies per month. And thank you again to all our sponsors and supporters, and as always, stay classy at the table.